I hope everybody's doing well today. Thank you for letting me spend a little bit of time with you. Uh, John, thank you for the introduction. My name is Joshua Ross. I am the Director of Entrepreneurship at the University of Denver at the Daniels College of Business. My role is I'm in charge of the entrepreneurship minor and also the Fourth Industrial Revolution course at University of Denver. I've been teaching it at the University of Denver since 2009 as adjunct faculty and most recently as full-time faculty. My background is in information technology and software development. That's where I was in business before I started teaching, and actually while I was teaching at the University of Denver. Okay, so I'm really excited and appreciate this opportunity to talk to you about some of the exciting curriculum and events taking place at DU in the Daniels College of Business. It's a really exciting time for technology. It's a really exciting time to be an entrepreneur. And it's a really exciting time as a professor to have the opportunity to teach a lot of these new technologies, and I'll get into it. Due to the amount of time we have today, I'm only going to be able to scratch the surface, but I would be happy at any point in time to come back or talk offline with anyone in that. Please connect with me on LinkedIn as well. So I'm going to spend a majority of my time today talking about the Fourth Industrial Revolution course that we created. We're going to talk about how we integrate business with the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So at the end of the day, the Daniels College of Business is a business school, and we need to still focus on the core business concepts, but weaving in the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And I'm going to talk about some of the learning outcomes. What do we want students to walk away with? What is important? And how do we take these main concepts? How do we take these main technology concepts, and how are we expanding them into now their own courses? So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So I want to back up. In 2012 is when Gateway to Business started. And this was a focus on an introductory to business course at the University of Denver. I was asked to teach the very first section of this. And what we are going to do is teach basic business concepts, your marketing, your finance, your strategy, your ethics, triple bottom line, CSR. But at the same time, we would have the students engage or form teams, and they could be cross-section, meaning students could form teams with other students in other classes and come up with an app idea. So this was 2012. An app idea, and they would take that idea, and over the course of the quarter, as they're learning these business concepts, they were applying these business concepts to their app idea. And they would come up with a business plan. They would come up with a video. They would come up with a prototype. They would identify their target market. They would come up with a marketing strategy. What I really liked about this Gateway to Business course is you were taking all this theory, right? All this business, these business concepts, and you were actually able to apply it and create your own business around an app. Business plan, videos, pitch deck, prototype. And this is what we created called the Gateway to Business. And each quarter, these students would go through a phase 1 and a phase 2 of their project, and it would culminate into what was called the Madden Challenge, a pitch competition. And each quarter we'd get maybe 40 or 50 teams. It was fewer course sections were taught in the spring or the winter and the spring. And they would go to what was called a Madden Challenge open call. And they would pitch their idea. And a panel of faculty would choose the top 6 or 7 ideas that would get to move on to the Madden Challenge. And the Madden Challenge was a true Shark Tank-like pitch competition. And they would pitch their ideas to venture capitalists, angel investors, people in the business community, and we'd have a winner. This was the Gateway to Business. This is how it started. There were hundreds of ideas. Winners, the top teams would win money. So from 2012 to 2019, we did this every quarter. But at some point in time, even though it was successful and the students loved it and there was great community engagement, it was time to update the course. After 7 years, we realized the course needed a change. It needed a recharge. You can only look at so many apps. All of a sudden, we needed to focus on these emerging and disruptive technologies and processes. So we challenged ourselves. How can we prepare our students in the business school and really around the University of Denver, because we get students from the other colleges coming to take this course. How can we prepare these students when they leave college day one and in year 5, in year 10? What are the skills and knowledge that these students will need in order to compete? Regardless of their job focus in industry, what technologies do they need to understand? Do they have to have a fundamental understanding about having their tool belt? So that's where we looked at the fourth industrial revolution. This brought us to the fourth industrial revolution. We looked at the converging technologies that are in processes that we believe would disrupt industries, the way we work, the way we live, the way we communicate. We're seeing a lot of this take place right now with what's happened with COVID-19. What were the disruptive technologies and trends, such as IoT, the Internet of Things, blockchain, extended reality, the virtual, the mixed, the augmented realities, quantum computing, artificial intelligence? How could we teach students about these? For the most part, students that were not technical. Our plan was to give the students a fundamental understanding of the core fourth industrial revolution technologies and integrate with a business core. A lot of the business concepts I talked earlier about with Gateway to Business, that was a requirement for every business student. So what this meant was designing a brand new curriculum from the ground up. New curriculum, new learning outcomes, new in-class activities, brand new deliverables, and design a project, this Madden Challenge project that was 35% of the students' grade. But it had to evolve from this app idea to now incorporate these fourth industrial revolution technologies. A challenge, definitely. Extremely exciting. So a year ago, spring 2019, we piloted the first fourth industrial revolution class. We had 27 students, and it was an elective because it wasn't a core, it was part of the pilot. And we had a nice mix of students. We had first years to fifth years. Some students had very, very technical backgrounds. Some were coming from the engineering school. I would say about 30% had crypto wallets, had actively traded cryptocurrency. And then we had other students that for the first time were learning about the fourth industrial revolution. They were not technical. For the first time, they were exposed to a lot of these technologies. Sure, they had put on virtual reality glasses. Sure, they had heard about Bitcoin. Maybe used AI in a sentence with Alexa, but that was about it. That was as deep as they went. So we were engaged, and these students were learning for the first time. So when we started, we had a lot of ideas of what would work, what didn't work. Some things worked great. Some things that we thought would be amazing bombed for a number of reasons. Others didn't. But what we took away from it, the students were engaged and the learning objectives were met. The merging, the coupling of tech, these new disruptive technologies, and business, it worked. So we went back to the drawing board after taking our learnings to decide how are we going to roll this out in the fall of 2019 over the course of 3 quarters and 700 plus students. So over the summer, we redesigned all of the lectures, the learnings, the outcomes, the project. And we rolled the course out as one of the core business classes in the Daniels College of Business in the fall of 2019. So over the course of the 2019-2020 school year, the 3 quarters, we taught 24 sections, 30 to 35 students per class. One of the biggest challenges, though, was once we had developed this curriculum, identifying the faculty and teaching the faculty how to teach Fourth Industrial Revolution technologies. Because remember, this is for non-technical students. And it's easy to understand, well, it's not easy, let me take that back. A lot of us understand these technologies. We read about these technologies either in textbooks or Wired magazine, white papers, but we all have a certain depth we go. What our challenge was to figure out how to teach the faculty how to teach it, but also be able to answer questions that the students have. Understand the questions that they asked were pertinent to what they were teaching. Make sure they didn't go down these rabbit holes. Much bigger challenge than I had initially thought. But there was success around that. And we started in the fall of 2019. So one of the things that we had to do was, before we started talking about the Fourth Industrial Revolution, is we had to talk about where we've been. So we spend a little bit of time on a history lesson. We talk about the first, second, and third industrial revolution. The past 200 plus years, how we've experienced innovation. So we looked at farming and steam power and manufacturing and electricity and computing to build to the Fourth Industrial Revolution. These were the core concepts that we focused on. They're not all the concepts, they're not all the technologies in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, but we identified these as the most important for the student to spend the most amount of time on. So for the first 3 weeks, we spent a class on each one. Each class is 1 hour and 50 minutes. So yes, 1 hour and 50 minutes to give a complete overview of distributed ledger, blockchain, crypto, tokens, ICOs, Satoshi, 1 hour and 50 minutes. Obviously not enough time. And I'll return to this towards the end of this discussion. The goal was to give the students an overview of each of these technologies, how they worked, how they applied to the future and to the future of business, what they are, the impact and the opportunity with each, the risks and the challenges, and really important, how they affect society, culture, the economy. Because if you look at the first industrial revolution through the fourth, there's a lot of parts of this world that aren't even engaged in technologies such as electricity, computing, internet. So what does that mean socially? How much greater is that digital divide? What are the consequences of autonomous vehicles? What are the job consequences of AI? These are all the things that we had to dive into in 1 hour and 50 minutes. And then these core 6 ideas or technologies, the students will use one of them or multiple for their project. The Madden challenge. So there are other technologies that go along with the Fourth Industrial Revolution. We don't spend as much time on these technologies, but what we do instead is we provide 1 hour lectures. And we require the students to attend between 3 and 6 of these lectures. Just a 1 hour overview on what they are and how they work. We believe it is important to not only understand the disruptive technology, but also the infrastructure technologies that enable it, such as the cloud computing, 5th generation, and cellular. What does big data mean? How is it used? So we take the core ideas, core technologies, but make sure to layer in these other technologies. Remember, we have 10 weeks for this. And we also have to teach them, it is a business core class. One of the cool things that we do, though, is we get them to buy and trade crypto. So one of the quarter-long projects is for the students to buy and trade cryptocurrency. And the requirements are simple. 10 transactions, 10 days, 10 different people. That's what they have to do. So simple things. And it was easier when it was on campus. This last quarter proved challenges because it was online. A student does you a favor. You send them some crypto. You buy something from a student. You send them some crypto. They buy something from you. They send you some crypto. We have them on board with Coinbase because initially you could earn EOS, Stellar, and a couple other cryptos by watching a couple of videos and answering a couple of quizzes. So it was a very inexpensive, very easy way to get on board with crypto. Coinbase has made that a little bit more difficult. But then we talked them through, moving into a more secure software wallet or hardware wallet. And some students do, some students stick with Coinbase. What was fascinating though is 30 to 40% of the student, probably about 30% of the student population already had wallets, had bought Bitcoin at some point in time. They never really admit when they bought it. Some bought it at 20,000, some bought it at 4,000. But it was really interesting to get their different perspectives, why they bought it, how long they've been engaged, were they still engaged. But this is one of the projects that we have. Break down that barrier, that friction around cryptocurrency. So we got to the Madden challenge. The way it works, teams are formed across section, and they're formed during what we call an open mic. And what happens is students stand up in front of all of the students within that time period. So there'll be maybe 3 or 4 classes, and they pitch their ideas. They pitch their ideas around additive manufacturing, 3D printing, AI, blockchain, extended reality, whatever it is. And students that don't have an idea pick the ideas that they like and try to get on that team. And these teams form based on skills. You'll have tech people, you have marketing people, you'll have finance people, you'll have people that have students that have no idea what they want to do, but they're hard workers. What they find is friends, sorority people in the same sororities, on the same sports teams, don't always make the best teammates. What you really want and what we encourage them to do is find different skill sets, bring different skill sets to this. Who can build a website? Who can potentially code? Who has experience with 3D printing? Who has the skills to bring this idea to fruition? And the pitches cover everything in travel, healthcare, education, personal identity. Some are 3D printed products. The creativity of these ideas are really impressive. This open mic takes about an hour, and it goes very fast, moves very efficiently, and the creativity and the ideas are a little mind-blowing. We pull these students out of their comfort zone. Within 3 weeks, they've gone from most of them knowing very little about these technologies to, I wouldn't say subject matter experts, but having that strong understanding. And now they have 5 weeks to develop their idea. Identify a target market through secondary and primary research. Develop a marketing strategy. Really be able to articulate the why. Why does this need to be done? What's the problem? What is the opportunity? Is there an unmet need? And then figuring out how it works. Can it be built in 5 weeks? Most of these ideas can't. Some things around 3D printing and Internet of Things, you can build a working prototype. And we actually offer TAs, teachers, assistants, to help the students walk through this. But the students are very good at creating something on the 3D printers and starting to really understand how to use IoT, and we give them IoT kits to learn how to use. If the teams decide what their idea is, that they can't build it. For example, we had ideas around blockchain in terms of controlling your digital identity and around healthcare, controlling all your healthcare records. Obviously, they can't build that in 5 weeks. If they do decide not to be able to build it, they need to provide a deep dive on how it works. Really articulate clearly how the product works, and really look at and identify the upstream activities. What things need to be developed in order for this product to work? And then what are the downstream activities based on the output of this product, based on the learning of the algorithms, the blockchain, the feedback from extended reality? How is that data used? How is that data monetized? How does it make the systems get smarter? So they have to understand the upstream, how it works, and then the downstream. Our goal is to stretch these students, get them out of their comfort zone with this technology. And you know what? They all impressed. So finally, we have the Madden Challenge. And as I said originally, it was a pitch competition between 6-7 teams and a Shark Tank-like event. What we found when we moved to this new format for the fourth industrial revolution, and the students came to open call to get into the Madden Challenge, that there were too many amazing ideas to say we can only pick 7. So we changed the format. We changed the format to a science fair idea, science fair format. And here's an example of what it looks like at the Daniels College of Business. In the fall, we had 30 teams, each with their own table set up. And the judges would walk around, ask questions. Students would articulate their idea, target market, whatever it was that the judges were asking about. 30 teams in the fall, 20 teams in the winter. We had ideas using facial recognition, 3D printing, blockchain, extended reality, IoT sensors, artificial intelligence. It was quite impressive to think that many of these students were in high school 6 to 9 months prior. An amazing event. I know I'm running out of time, so I'll go quickly. In the spring of 2020, it brought us challenges. All of our classes, we had to move online. The competition, due to the online format, was limited back to 7 teams. We had to do an open call and select 7. But what was impressive is these teams collaborated remotely on projects. They were situated around the country, sheltering in place. They used a lot of collaboration tools to work on the projects, to build out their pitch video. Their deliverable was one thing, it was a 7-minute pitch video. Imagine that you had an investor's attention. You could send them a video. You could not answer one question. They had to develop a comprehensive video about their idea, what it was, the problem it solved, target market, and think about the questions an investor would ask. This is what they had to come up with. John Carpenter was one of the judges, and it was a terrific night. We had over 150 people in attendance from around the United States, and we had people join us from Europe. It was a 2-hour pitch competition. We gave out over $4,000 in prize money. And the students were incredibly impressive. They rose to the occasion. They rose to the challenge of doing this remotely. So what we've learned from the fourth industrial revolution. Well, 2 hours per topic is not enough. As I said earlier, 2 hours on artificial intelligence, blockchain, any of these core technologies is not enough. Many of the students wanted to extend the learning past the 2 hours. They wanted to do a deeper dive. And finally, a lot of students wanted to go down different paths. Some wanted a more technical path. Others wanted a more focus on business path. And others wanted to expand into the ethical and social study on these different technologies. So what we learned is we needed to create longer courses. So in the spring, starting in the fall, or in the winter, I was asked to teach a 5-week course, 5-week 2-credit course on blockchain, cryptocurrency, and Bitcoin. The very last minute, about a week before it was supposed to be taught, I had to go online. So I had 27 students, one book. We used the book by Jan Pritzker, Inventing Bitcoin. And it focused on these concepts. These were the concepts I focused on. And we had one project, one thing that the students had to work on. One of the things that we focused on, though, which was a lot of fun, was one whole class was to focus on money, fiscal policy, monetary policy, the history of money, what gives money value. And then we walked through all these different ideas. And what I realized, 5 weeks is still not enough time. But it was a chance to extend the learning. And we are doing that now with Internet of Things. We're doing that with these other technologies. But many of these topics should be a quarter long. But as we've started to explain to the whole university culture what we're doing, the whole community, other parts of the university have reached out to us. They want to be involved. They want to know how we can provide this to executive education. What do CEOs and execs need to know about blockchain? How can we provide it in a one-day class? How can we provide it to non-business majors such as the arts, psychology, resource and tourism management? So this is where we're going. We've started it. Now the ball's rolling. How can we package it in different ways, different learnings, different learning outcomes? These are the exciting challenges that we have. These are the things I'm looking for to continue to innovate and build curriculum and learning around these disruptive technologies. This is right now what's happening at the University of Denver. And like a 2-hour class teaching these technologies and 5-week class teaching blockchain, which is not enough time, 30 minutes isn't enough time to tell you all the different things we're doing. But I hope I gave you a nice overview. So I appreciate your time today. Thank you. And I guess if there's questions, I don't know what the next format is.
Yeah, no, that's great, Josh. We really appreciate it. And I'm going to open it up for questions now to the group. And do you have questions about what Josh has done with the University of Denver and both around the fourth industrial revolution and his great curriculum around the adoption of blockchain as well? I will say, Josh, just my assessment of your classes was the students really got engaged with the use of blockchain. And when you talk about that they, had a 30% adoption rate for wallets, that's amazing. And then after the classes, how did the students seem to really embrace blockchain as far as going forward after the class?
So in the 5-week class, what was really interesting was they all had to do a project around blockchain, and they would take different industries such as healthcare, travel, voting, and they really had a really strong understanding of blockchain in terms of the practical applications. But one of the things that they all kind of came to the conclusion is that we are at the very beginning of blockchain and the opportunities with it. And there's still a lot of things that need to be overcome in terms of, how, the industry, how far the industries have come, the adoption of technology, who actually kind of, in some instances, are the people involved in it. And so there was a lot of still questions around that.
Okay, good. And how about, Hyperledger is very focused on enterprise blockchain solutions. So how did it seem the students, I know you mentioned voting and some other ones, seem to really understand that beyond the cryptocurrency component that, blockchain really has a great use in the enterprise for secure transactions?
Yeah, they got that, but they were still, in a 5-week class, they get it from a 30,000-foot view in terms of the opportunities with it, and they could say, hey, great, that's great that Walmart's using it in supply chain. And that's great with what Maersk is doing it in supply chain and shipping. But in terms of truly saying, okay, this is where it's going, and understanding like where the true opportunities are on a more industry level, we weren't able to get that far. And that was kind of to my point where you need kind of that next 5 weeks to then kind of dive deeper into the different industries.
Perfect. Okay, Joshua, well, thank you very much for doing such a great presentation. Best of luck on your future classes at DU. I'm going to try and go ahead and stop the video now so I can export this portion separately, and then we'll jump right back in with Zach.
Hey, thank you all. I appreciate it.